Hey, friends! It's your old pal, Barkey Dog, back with another movie review. This time we're talking Sherlock Holmes. There have been many actors who have donned the deerstalker. Ian Richardson is pretty good. Basil Rathbone is a classic go-to. My favorite will always be Jeremy Brett from the Granada television adaptation of the Holmes stories. And there have been other Sherlocks, some good, some bad. Roger Moore, Charlton Heston, and Matt Frewer were not great. But then there's this movie, Murder by Decree from 1979, starring Christopher Plummer as Sherlock Holmes. This is one of several stories that pits the world's greatest detective against the mysterious serial killer, Jack the Ripper. In the autumn of 1888, a serial killer murdered 5 women in Whitechapel, a poor part of town, and he killed them in a particularly gruesome way. The police were helpless. There were all kinds of theories as to who the killer was and why he couldn't be found. To this day, his identity and motivations remain a mystery. Hey, everybody knows it was this guy, and he's on the planet Argelius. But in the canonical stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Holmes never tangled with Saucy Jack. But at least one story alludes to Holmes working on a case involving multiple murders. It's only mentioned in passing and not the focus of the story, but it could be assumed he was looking into the Ripper murders. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Both were active in the same time period, and it's just the sort of thing Holmes might have been interested in. And the police at the time consulted Dr. Joseph Bell, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's mentor and inspiration for the Holmes character. So, since Doyle himself never explicitly wrote a story where Holmes takes on Jack the Ripper, others over the years have taken up the challenge. And that's sort of where this movie comes in. One of my viewers, Hunter, was kind enough to send me this here spiffy Blu-ray off of my wish list. Thanks, man. So, how does Plummer stand up to other Sherlocks? Let's find out. Our story goes like this. Jack the Ripper is at work, having murdered several women already. But for some reason, the police have yet to ask Sherlock Holmes to look into the case. But he soon steps in anyway, after being enlisted by a citizens committee from Whitechapel. Right out of the gate, Holmes is stymied by those in authority. As he works to decipher mysterious clues, a conspiracy reaching to the highest levels of the government begins to take shape. Several factions pop up, all working at cross purposes, and when Holmes starts to get close to an answer, he finds his life in danger from powerful forces operating from the shadows. Who is the killer? Can Sherlock Holmes solve the mystery of Jack the Ripper? And why doesn't he question Mr. Hengist? In our cast, we have Christopher Plummer as Holmes. He's quite all right. Unlike Brett, he doesn't have any of Holmes's manic mannerisms or the superiority and ego of Richardson's Holmes. Instead, he plays the character fairly straight. Maybe a bit too emotional at times, not something Holmes was known for. Doesn't matter, though. Plummer is a consummate actor, and he shows off a good range here. I liked his Sherlock Holmes. And hey, James Mason as Watson. Really loved him in this role. He was a nice choice, and sort of a combination of Edward Hardwicke from the Granada series and Nigel Bruce from the Basil Rathbone films. Just serious enough that he's not buffoonish, but just fuddy-duddy enough to be endearing. And I won't lie, I know some Sherlockians don't care for him, but I love me some Nigel Bruce Dr. Watson. He's just a riot. He's a hoot to watch in anything, but his Watson was very charming, and Mason brings the best of both worlds in his portrayal of Dr. Watson. There was talk of re-teaming Plummer and Mason in another Sherlock Holmes project, but Mason passed away before another movie could happen. If it was half as good as this, we really were cheated out of something special. The two are really good together and play off each other very well as these characters. Susan Clark is also in this as Mary Kelly. Sir John Gielgud plays the Prime Minister of England, and David Hemmings plays a detective. Donald Sutherland plays Robert Lees. Lees was a real guy running around at the time. He was a professed psychic who claimed he had visions of the Ripper at work, which no one took seriously. Sutherland plays him as suitably spacey. Geneviève Bujold is also here. She was in line to play Captain Janeway in Star Trek Voyager, but was kind of awful at it, so they hired Kate Mulgrew instead. We also have Anthony Quayle. He was in Lawrence of Arabia, The Guns of Navarone, The Wrong Man, just tons of stuff. And we have Frank Finlay as Inspector Lestrade. This was his second outing as Lestrade. Both he and Quayle were in a previous Sherlock Holmes movie from 1965, A Study in Terror, which is also about Holmes taking on Jack the Ripper. Finlay played Lestrade in that one too. The movie is alright, but I think my favorite thing is this here movie poster, where you can see them shamelessly trying to cash in and ride the cape tails of the Adam West Batman TV series. Murder by Decree was directed by Bob Clark, who directed Porky's, Black Christmas, Rhinestone, Turk 182, and helmed the perennial holiday favorite, A Christmas Story. The film partly originated from a 1973 TV series and book called The Ripper File. That was about two fictional, then modern-day detectives going over the evidence, trying to suss out who the Ripper was. I just screened it, and it covers all the available evidence and witness testimony and stuff like that in a straightforward way, as the pair test out various theories, assisted by reenactment of events that took place at the time. That's actually on YouTube, and I'll try to remember to link to it down below there for you. The TV show and book became the template for the case and the motivations of the killer. Sherlock Holmes came in later. All that was grafted on to the events described in the book. The period setting in Murder by Decree is really very well done, using a ginormous soundstage to stand in for the streets of London and the Whitechapel back alleys where the Ripper lurked and plied his trade. There's also some location shooting in and around the remains of Victorian-era warehouses, which also looks really good and helps set the tone. And I have to say, they really do keep the mystery going. If you've not seen the movie before, or are familiar with the various theories about Jack the Ripper, give this one a chance, and you'll find the case fascinating. And you'll be drawn into it as we follow Holmes and Watson each step of the way. And, unlike in real life, naturally, they solve the crime. Because movie! So we have a great cast, a great setting, a great, if not entirely original idea, executed very, very well. This is decidedly better than average, and Plummer and Mason are both in good form. So I'm giving Murder by Decree 3 paws up. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.